Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Tony's not with me yet, but welcome to Pajama Sunday, even though I am in my pajamas under my hoodie. Hate won't make America great because I had to go out and get firewood. I didn't have any in the house, and it was freezing. So I went, built a new fire, and it's great to see everybody. I'm just waiting on Tony. He knows. He's probably just getting a little late on getting his stuff set up. So anyway, how is everybody on this last day of democracy in the United States? It is actually quite a day. I've been making a few jokes on my stupid personal Facebook page. I probably could have set it up, but I didn't pull up the pictures. But I made a funny meme about that. Well, I didn't make it. Somebody made a meme about calling them snowflakes, right? Because they canceled the outside inauguration. And basically, I said, well, gee, 70,000 people are going to be outside in Buffalo watching a football game for hours and they can't have the inauguration outside when it's going to be at least 15 to 20 degrees warmer in DC. But anyway, whatever. We have the funny stuff. Anyway, Tony has a really good presentation here that he made. I'm just hoping he realizes that we are on at 11 a.m. And I'm thinking I'm going to give him a call and make sure he's
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail.
okay. It's been forwarded to voicemail, so he's getting it together. Let's hope he doesn't have technical difficulties because this is a good it's really a good presentation that he put together. Everybody knows that we've suffered in the United States with wildfires. We have suffered in the United States with fires, tornadoes, droughts, and the insurance industry in the United States is canceling people's insurance, and it's a big problem. So let's see what Tony's getting in touch with me. I'm going to look at what he is saying. What time? Now. I told him now. 11 a.m. Eastern. 11 a.m. Eastern. Yeah. Tony. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I'm writing to him. Pajama Sundays, baby. No, Pajama Sundays. This is funny. Okay, he will get ready. Let me just tell him. We will wait for you. Get your shit together. Ah, I thought he realized that. I did. I was very clear. But when someone like Tony works full time, uh, and hang on, it's funny to do this. Just wait. Don't worry, I'm live and I'm talking to everybody, and they know that this is happening. So take your time. Exclamation point. It's Sunday, babe. Just put your green screen up and let's go. See, this is the best part of live. I mean, when you have live show, and I thought I communicated this well. Pajama Sundays, pajama morning. But like I said, Tony is very, very busy. He is he's studying. He works full time. I don't give him any I won't give him any grief over this at all. Why would I? We're all here anyway. And what are we in a hurry? It's Sunday morning. So I'm going to say hi to all of you. And we can go back to talking a little bit about this inauguration because, yeah, Otto, inauguration, first one was about 28F and tomorrow will drop to a 23. Oh, boy, But the whole thing, it just makes me laugh because the memes are hilarious, okay? The memes out there are basically that the orange turd didn't want to do it because of the wind blowing his hair. Uh, Whatever. Pajamas, that's just more laundry. Let me tell you, I hadn't done laundry in a long time, and I finally did like 3 loads the other day. Holy crap, I hate doing laundry. It's like the worst job, but it's great to see you. Hi, Steve. Yeah, it's okay. There's never, poor Antonio. I told him, he said he doesn't wear pajamas. And he said, like a t-shirt. I said, well, just don't come in your birthday suit. Although I'm sure there's probably people that would love to see him in his birthday suit. Okay, let's see here. Sarcasm, no more TikTok. Those commie bastards are taking away our freedom. Oh, wait, that's the U.S. government. See, I like this kind of chatting because we're going to go through, it's going to be pretty serious, a pretty serious presentation. And what I can do, which would be great after when we do this presentation, is that I'll be able to cut all this out and make it into a video also, which would be great for sharing with people because he did a fantastic thing. And everybody's getting a chance to join. Hi, hon. And Tommyist, hello. What? I don't know what you guys are talking about. Yeah, right. The hugest crowds. Another thing I read about this was, and excuse me, I'm itchy again, but at least this time I'm not doing anything like digging for gold with cat hair up my nose. What did I read about this? That they were worried about the crowd size. And then people are very upset because they're not getting their money back for the hotels and all that. Look, Otto, annulment of TikTok is another means for the right wingers to control it. Yeah, but there's also a lot of people saying it's also because on TikTok is showing videos of really what's happening in Gaza and Palestine. And the Americans don't want you to see that. We see it. But the rank and file don't always see it or know what's happening. They really don't. So, is it wrong on YouTube? What do you mean it's wrong on YouTube? Really? No, he thought it was tonight like we usually do our 9 o'clock show, Susan. But I did not see that, that it was wrong on YouTube. Let me look. No, I didn't see it. Well, that does happen, though. And I set it up through Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live is my software, which I absolutely love. Love Ecamm Live. You can do all kinds of creative things with Ecamm Live, and I love colors. And as you know, and I'm not a regular YouTuber. I don't give a shit what other people do. I do what I want to do. But it isn't the government. No, the government doesn't control the media anymore. Even the FCC doesn't really give a crap. It's all about money. And wait, it is the government that control. Oh, you're saying it is the government somewhat, but the FCC really doesn't care. And my point is they just, if the government said this and they all voted on this, it's because they don't want you to see what's going on in Palestine, which a lot of people said. And, but I'm glad you're having conversations. It's good. All right. Tony's here. Are you, we'll make sure he's good. And hello, Tony. Guest one. Let me get him in. See, you're here. Smile. Everybody's here. I have been talking to everybody. And I thought you realized Pajama Sundays are in the morning, pajama morning.
Right.
But hey, listen, my excuse for you is that you are probably one of the busiest people on the planet. Certainly busier than me.
As of late.
Yeah. Now, why are you frozen? Oh, okay, you're not frozen. All right. So anyway, everybody, the chat's been going, and it's been great. Keith says Homeland Security controls the media. That's what you mean. Okay. We were talking about the TikTok ban and the inauguration, which I've been making jokes about this morning. My one, Tony, was about how they can't have it outside, but in Buffalo, which is, go Bills, where I live, 70,000 people are going to sit outside watching the game, playoff game. So like, and then the other joke is, oh, it's his hair. He doesn't want his hair. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I said was I will all this blathering I'm doing because it's pajama Sundays. Although I told
Yeah.
everybody I have a sweatshirt on because I had to go and get firewood and I couldn't go out. It was a little bit chilly in my pajamas, but I have my pajamas on, and I will when we start this whole thing. I'm also going to clip it and make it into a video because
Okay.
because your presentation is so good. So what I want you to do, so I will shut up because obviously I've already had 3 cups of half cap high antioxidant low acid coffee, right? And so
Okay.
yeah, I've been
I
up
don't drink
since.
coffee, so
Oh, really? Then you will have.
yeah.
My nose is itchy as shit too. You will have one less thing to worry about and collapse, right? Because you won't be able to get your coffee, and we'll all be going like this and freaking out about the coffee.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, if you don't mind, I'm itching my nose because I'm allergic. I'm not allergic to anything really, but there's a lot of dust and cat hair. And one quick thing. Everybody
Yeah.
knows I'm doing a fundraiser for the Pasadena Animal Shelter. So don't get mad that I've monetized this video because I don't think YouTube
Okay.
will take that off. We've already got Dog Dude who made 3 donations because I put like a goal of 5. It's only up to you guys. I'm never a big beggar for money. You all know that I do it. I basically do it to pay for the channel, the internet or whatever. But it's going to be good, Antonio. This, I think I don't know, but maybe $500, maybe by the end of January to send to Pasadena Animal
Oh.
Shelter. I know. It's like, I've been like crying over this, how happy I am. All right, let me just fix your fade level a little bit before we actually really start the show. Now, would you please introduce yourself? Because there are people that are newer to us that may not really know who you are. And I was trying to explain how Stuart Scott was your mentor and all that. So why don't you go for it? And I'm going to shut up now because I have been talking completely for how many minutes now? 13 minutes.
Okay,
Take it
well, thank
away.
you. Steve. So my name's Antonio Reid. I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I'm still here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I'm actually wearing the shirt of my alma mater today,
Yay.
Appalachian State University, which is in Boone, North Carolina, the western part of North Carolina, in the mountains, the same area, of course, that was impacted by Hurricane Helene. I
Yes.
graduated in 2017 with degrees in history, phenomenology, history, the study of the Africana diaspora, and political science with a focus on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Um, I kind of got introduced to the climate crisis in 2016. Actually, I know exactly what happened that got me introduced into the crisis. It was February of 2016, and we are experiencing close to 80-degree days in the mountains of North Carolina. The mountains of North Carolina actually share a very similar climate to where Sandy is in Angelica, New York, thanks to our elevation. So imagine Sandy, an 80-degree day in February. That's the type of weather that we're getting in the mountains of North Carolina in February of 2016. I had always been aware of the climate crisis, the ongoing crisis going on. Early in my life, I was a Republican when I was in middle school. So actually, I was a climate denier. But by the time that I was in high school
Yeah,
and
but you were
taking into
so young. You were just learning from probably idiots around you. Yeah.
well, mostly Fox News. So,
Jeez.
so not a
Oh.
good source at all, right? But by the time I was in high school, I took AP Environmental Science, that's advanced placement. Um, and I was exposed to a lot of the literature in actual science on climate change, and I became aware of the crisis, not alarmed by it. I didn't have certainly the view I would have by 2016. I kind of had a long-standing view that the climate crisis was something for quote unquote our grandchildren. That's kind of superfluous phrase that a lot of people use. But that's kind of was my view. I was a good liberal on the issue. I wanted electric cars. I wanted wind turbines, solar panels, and the whole inconvenient truth on climate change, that Al Gore moment, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't until 2016, having this experience in the mountains, that really shook me that climate change was something that was happening a lot faster than the model or story that I had in my head. That led me into kind of a panic crises mode and researching for data. My research led me down the road to different YouTube channels, of course, as well. I got in contact with the late Stuart Scott now, who
Yes.
was responsible at the time for what was called Climate Matters TV, then scientist organization. I
Warning.
forget
Scientist warning.
scientist warning, right? Um, but he would go to the conference of parties every year, and he would interview economists like Jeffrey Sachs, scientists, Peter Whalum, Dr. James Hansen, of course, the former director of the NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies,
Mm-hmm.
and many, many others on this issue of climate change and the progress that was happening at the conference of parties. And I invited him to my school in 2017 to talk about the climate crisis, what we were
Right.
calling, the terminology was abrupt climate change, that we're facing abrupt climate change. So I organized a platform in my school called Appalachian Climate Talks, where I invited Stuart Scott to the university to talk to people about the issue of climate change and to help spearhead our own efforts at my school to reduce our carbon emission as fast as possible. Uh, Unfortunately, I got into a lot of political trouble with my university for some activism that I did against Wells Fargo for its criminal
I
behavior uh,
remember.
a few years earlier. And they had stripped me of all of my funding for the program. They stripped me of over 12, over half a dozen departmental sponsors, and they had severely kneecapped the program. But nonetheless, I went on working with Stuart Scott in the capacity of working with a team of translators from over 30 different countries and 30 different languages. And we were translating the different captions on his videos in different languages so the people all around the world could take in this information about abrupt climate change. And so that's where my work was with with the late Stuart Scott, now his passing from cancer. Um, my introduction with Sandy happened along the same timeline. I started interviewing scientists, some of which are still very much on this channel, and you guys are more than welcome to go back and see those interviews. People like Dr. James White, the professor of Alpine and Arctic Research Center at Colorado Boulder, and many others to talk about the dynamic impacts of abrupt climate change, not just climate change as we understood it from that Al Gore movie in 2007, Inconvenient Truth, but a sort of abrupt climate change, a much faster climate change than we had originally expected.
Yeah,
um,
faster than previously expected. Yes.
so that led me, and then this will be the end of my introduction, led me to help write well, it was a feasibility assessment for my school's ability to reduce our carbon emissions in sync with the crisis that we were facing. And I spent a lot of time doing that, helping the school. We actually do have documents published that went through the SGA, through the Senate. But there's been a lot of difficulties, as you might imagine. I mean, these things are intergenerational. You're only out of college for 4 years. I stayed for almost 7 years on this project, so well after the time that I graduated, to try to help produce progress. But that whole situation has been very disparaging, but very sobering. To be honest, it's not where we would want to be, but that is also the reality of the world that we're in.
Sure is. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I have been impressed and happy to be having you as part of this team for as long as you've been and be on the state of the planet with us. And you are our IPCC and cop go to guy. I mean, really. And brilliant. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So why don't you give us now the lead in to the
Sure.
presentation and why you did wanted to do this, and then we will get started.
So, picking up on that theme of faster than expected, this has been absolutely incredible what we've been seeing on the western coast of the United States in Southern California and the Los Angeles metropolitan area. So, this is the worst wildfire that Los Angeles, okay, this is the worst urban wildfire in the United States history. I want to expand that. This is much worse than the Chicago fires, much worse than the New York fires that we've seen. This is even worse than the burning of many of the southern cities under Sherman during the Civil
Oh,
War. Um, this is true. I mean, look at the background that you have here, which I think is either from the European satellite agency that picked up this
yes.
beautiful. Well, I don't mean to call it beautiful, but it's incredible
Mm-hmm.
image of the Palisades in California ablaze. Um, and what's interesting here is that this is the height of our civilization that we're witnessing on fire. This is not some developing country where you would think that they don't have adequate municipal services or something of that nature. No. California alone would be the fifth or seventh largest economy in the world, and it belongs to the United States. And Cal Fire, LA Fire, the resources they have there are really just top of the line and phenomenal. But even all of that,
Wow.
um,
All right. Well,
really couldn't stop this onslaught.
this,
And so beyond just the devastation that we're witnessing, and we're all witnessing this together, is these moments of oscillation between devastation and peace, or quote unquote peace. The rebuilding. Okay, so I really wanted to talk about that's kind of the first major societal impact in terms of how our civilization is dealing with the ongoing climate transition is, as I've stated throughout my time with Sandy, through insurances. Why? Because insurances are based off of risk assessments.
yeah.
Uh, ins- so insurances have to be forward thinking, and they have to understand what is the ability for us to insure our assets into the future given a set conditions, right? The conditions that they had in 2000 are now not the same as the conditions they're having in 2025. And when they're factoring in climate change, they're seeing that these conditions are ongoing changing. So I really wanted to dive into that because it's not just going to impact the people of California, as we'll see throughout the presentation. And it's going to impact everybody. And it's not going to impact you in the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to impact you
You
uh,
I know.
very
It's
soon here.
it's yeah, it's we're seeing it. I mean, it impacted us in 2017, which you well know because we had the tornado here
Yeah.
the year before the big party that you came up to, our big party, which was
Yeah.
great. All right,
And you
well
showed
let
me the down trees. Yeah.
yeah, there were still down trees. We had warmth from that, but it wasn't the kind of warmth we wanted, you know. It was
Right.
the and you remember the gigantic trunks? I mean, it took that tornado took some of my prized beautiful oak trees and maple, and now what's left here is really crappy stuff that's coming down, that's aging, that's infested with diseases, but that's for another show. So let me set up the presentation and we will get started. Thank you, Tony, so much for this. That was really, really, really helpful. And here we go. You did a beautiful job. Thank you. All right, guys, if you have questions, put a Q. I'm not going to be looking at the chat at this time. So here we go.
All right. Oh, thank you, Sandy. Okay, so assuring the uninsured in an era of climate change. Okay, so what's interesting here, again, this is a picture of the background about the Palisades in California. I just want to spend a couple of moments on the title here.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely devastating what's happening to these people. And it's not just the uninsured, although I'm going to break down this category between the uninsured and the insured claims that are being. But this is really to talk about a new transition, a new era that we are all moving into when we think about our interface, not only with the urban area, but with natural areas and the climate around us. Okay. So Sandy, if you want to go on to the next slide here. All right. So one of the big things, one of the big indicators that we have in assessing the amount of damage that climate change is causing is how many times that we get a $1 billion storm, okay? $1 billion. Now, or $1 billion event, not just a storm. So we're also including wildfires, we're also including like hail events or windstorms, or damages due to rising sea levels, or anything like that that has to do with meteorology or with the climate. Okay, so in terms of $1 billion natural disasters, you can clearly see, as indicated by this graph that's supplied by NOAA, that the amount of $1 billion disasters happening in the United States have been increasing steadily from 1880, which is the baseline period here, into the modern era, into 2023, which is as late as this graph goes. I do also have data on 2024, so we'll talk about that as well. But as you can see, the trend line is very positive, that as we are experiencing climate change, we are seeing in the United States more $1 billion disasters. Okay, the year 2016 was an unusual year. That's a year that I highlighted, and the reason why I highlight that year again is because that's kind of the year that I was thrown into the climate crisis. So there were 15 weather and climate events with losses exceeding $1 billion each across the United States. Now, this was incredible. These events included droughts, wildfires, 4 inland flood events, 8 severe storm events, tropical cyclone events, accumulating in 15 events total, 138 casualties, costing $46 billion in total in 2016. And then that was the second number of highest billion-dollar events, leading up to the 16 events in 2011. So what's interesting about this, so 2016 kind of rocked the scale in terms of the number of events, okay? And I do want to separate this for people. So there's a difference between how many $1 billion events or more that you get, and then the cost, the total cost of events. So you could have one event that, for example, in the very following year in 2017, Hurricane Harvey costing $2 billion or $200 billion. So, in 2017, you had overall less $1 billion events, but the $1 billion event that occurred in 2016 were worse. 2017 were worse than in 2016. So you're having this ricochet between high frequency damages and high intensity damages happening across the United States. And as time goes on, we're actually seeing an increase not only in the frequency of high damage events, but also in the intensity of high damage events. Sandy, if you want to go on to the next slide. So the total disaster cost is promised for 2024, which is not a part of that graph, but I did want to highlight that for us. In 2024, just the last year that we were in, the United States experienced 27 weather and climate disasters, each causing at least $1 billion in damages, that being that $1 billion threshold, the second highest annual total on the climate record, just below the 28 events of last year. So again, there's a situation where you could have slightly less events happening, but it costs more. In this case, it's only one event apart. But again, notice this is a steady increase. This is almost double. I'm sorry, it's not funny, it's horrific, but it's happening so fast. This is almost double the amount of events happening in 2016, okay? And we're not even 30 years later. It's just within that short period of time, the amount of damages are increasing in cost and the amount of events are increasing in frequency, and it's absolutely incredible. Of those 27 events, we had 2 winter storms, 1 wildfire, 1 drought, 1 flooding event, 6 tornado outbreaks, 5 tropical cyclones, and 11 severe weather events, including hail. Now, a lot of people don't understand this about hail. Why is hail so bad? Well, think about it. Think about for your car, for example, and this is going to hit the auto industry as well, and it certainly is hitting the auto industry. Um, when hail falls from the earth, it falls just like rain. So once it gets to a certain size and it can ping your car, it basically, um, creates almost a inverted bubble sheet on your car, bubble wrap sheet on your car. So every single panel of your car has to be replaced in an event like that. That's extremely costly. Think about how much it costs just to repaint one panel on your car, on average between $600 to $1,000. And that doesn't include the labor cost. So imagine doing that for full body. And then not just your car, every single car in the affected zone. So these insurances are really, really piling up, and they are completely outside of the risk assessment models that insurers previously had when developing their premium datas and charges for their clients. So we're way outside of that zone, and you can certainly see that again by the frequency of impacts and the intensity that we're seeing as time goes on. So collectively, these disasters resulted in at least 568 fatalities. That's well up from the 138, and approximately 182 billion. So we're almost talking about quadruple the amount in 16 damages, making 2024 the 4th costliest year on record. Okay, so these costs are exploding. The number of people who are directly dying in relation to these events, that goes up and down, but you can see that number can sometimes be very high. And this doesn't include, Sandy, the event where they had an extreme heat outbreak. I think it was in the Pacific Northwest a couple years
Oh,
ago,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
where
Yeah.
almost 800 to 1,000 plus people died. So these events are really accumulating, but continue on there. So 2025, starting with a bang. Already 2025 is off the charts in terms of the LA wildfires. So right during the course of that, these fires have roughly been burning. Uh, as of January 18, 2025, the Los Angeles wildfires have caused significant destruction. Okay, so structural damages are over 12,000 structures across the LA region have been destroyed. So this is one of the largest widespread disasters we've seen now in U.S. history. I mean, this is close to Hurricane Katrina. This is looking like Hurricane Maria type damage happening in Los Angeles due to these fires, at least on certain neighborhoods. So the acreage burned so far has been 40,000. And much of this, again, a lot of this has been the urban interface area, which has had been absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. The two most significant fires, of course, are the Palisades fire that burned over 23,000 acres, destroying at least 5,300 structures. And then there's the Pacific Palisades, Malibu, the Santa Monica area as well. Of course, the Eaton fire, 14,000 acres burned, destroying 7,000 structures in that area. So you can see, and causing over 200,000 people to evacuate in those areas as well. A lot of cars have been destroyed. If you're watching this area, if you're watching a lot of the footage on this, a lot of property's been destroyed. So you can see this has really widespread effects. And because it's not just it's not just the forest area that's burning, which would be bad enough, right? Is actual urban area that's being destroyed. This is going to really impact insurances. So far, the estimated cost for all of this, we've seen 27 fatalities. The estimated cost for all of this is between 135 to 150 billion dollars. That's total cost. The insured losses are between 20 to 50 billion. So we're talking about over $100 billion, my God, of property, people's lives completely gone, up in flames, destroyed, poof. Absolutely incredible. And again, this is not happening in the Congo. And forgive me, this is not happening in a developing country. This is happening in the richest country in the world. This is happening in one of the most vital economies in the world, the Californian economy
Yeah.
in Southern California, Los Angeles. And you have now populations just lost over $100 billion in worth. I mean, it's completely gone. That's people's entire lives destroyed. And there's not insured, completely not insured. Sandy, continue. Okay, so this is not, and this has been very interesting. So in the United States, there's a large discussion about what caused these fires. Was it climate change? Was it arson? Was it forest management, land management? All of the above, okay? But that does not explain how these fires were able to get such an upper hand on all of the fire resources that we had in Los Angeles. You listen to the firefighters that are down there on the ground. If you put any municipality in the world under these same conditions, they're going to struggle to stay ahead of this fire. They are facing in the LA region over 100 or to 80 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts. Nobody's flying in those conditions. And the fires were able to produce embers that floated for miles beyond where the fires were actually in starting new fires. Okay. And then the road system was just in total, utter nightmare gridlock. And that was before people were abandoning their cars in the street. I have visited Southern Los Angeles, Southern California and Los Angeles many, many times over the last 6 years. And the horror those people must have been in to be in those suburban mazes
Yeah,
with the
that is what,
cars,
that's right. That's what they are. Mazes. Some of those streets you can't even get out of.
right? And you have no idea, and all you see is more smoke and fire coming closer towards you, and your car's not budging. It's been 30 minutes and you've moved 2 inches. Okay. What do?
Get out and run.
You get out of your car and you run. Okay. And guess what? When you do that, the firemen now can't come up the street to fight the fire. Okay. So now you got air resources that are grounded and you got ground resources that are trapped. And this is happening in the second largest metropolitan area in the United States. You have people burning alive in their homes.
At
You
least not
have,
as many as in the Paradise Fire.
and thank God.
God,
I
I
mean, but
know.
this is again, this is the world that we all now have to deal with. Is it going to be the Paradise Fires, or is it going to be in the Palisades, or is it going to be in Alberta where you get smoked out in New York because the wildfires are so out of control? Or are you going to be in Hawaii when you're running down a cliff and you have to jump into the ocean to get away? I mean, this is our world now. This is the world that we're all stepping into together. So I wanted to expand that. It's not just happening in the United States. This is happening worldwide, and you have to keep your eyes on the ball. Whatever may have been the particulars in Los Angeles, it's happening in China. It's happening in Australia. Remember, we are watching the Kamalas on fire in 2020 as we're
Oh,
opening
the
up the new
koala
year there.
bears. Oh my gosh, the koalas and the kangaroos.
We are seeing some of the largest wildfire outbreaks in Siberia. So this is the world that we're talking about. In 2024, insured losses from natural catastrophes, including hurricanes, floods, wildfires, were estimated $140 billion, which is why they upped, by the way, the climate change fund. In just 1 year, you had more damages that were in the allotted climate change fund up into the most recent COP, and that was up from $106 billion in 2023. The financial strains extend well beyond the insurance sector, with global economic losses for natural disasters being over $300 billion in 2024, up from 268 billion. So we're not just talking about insured losses, we're also talking about uninsured losses, okay? And now we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in damages just from extreme weather events happening every year, and that number is increasing steadily. Okay? Well outstripping some countries' abilities to keep up. And we're starting to see what that looks like even across industrial countries, mighty industrial countries like the United States. Sandy, if you'll continue on to the next one. Okay. So the industry is responding to this. I was certainly hoping that would be a little bit better, bigger to see, but Cindy, can you hit the play button on that? Maybe it's going to magnify it a little. If you
All
just
right.
play this slideshow, yeah, it says play right, yeah, on the other
Wait a
side.
minute. I know. I know.
Okay. Oh, it kind of doesn't fit. Well, I'll talk about from
It's
the
not
best of my
working.
ability here.
Oh.
Well, just some of it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. It works. Okay.
Oh, I see
So
what the two sides. Okay. That's the problem.
So there has been a response from the industry, right? The industry has, of course, been reassessing its danger risk if it has an ability to actually insure its assets. In California, of course, one of the largest risks the industry face is from wildfires. One of the responses that we've seen from the industry is that it just simply cuts out coverage. It said it drops people's coverage in their plans. It says that will no longer assure your house. Your house doesn't either have the proper materials, it doesn't meet certain codes, or it's in a danger zone. And in many situations, like what we're seeing here in the Palisades, what will happen is in a situation like this, California has made it illegal for insurers to immediately drop their insurance or during the crisis, but a year after the crisis, they can drop their coverage. And so what we're going to see is a complete wiping out of coverage. And what the state has opted to do is the FAIR plan. And this is a plan that is for the state, a public plan that people can opt into. Premiums are much higher and coverage is a lot less effective. So these are the type of things that we're seeing the state responding, because we're starting to see the industries walking out from states on this issue.
Yeah.
Some industries are picking up their bags altogether and totally vacating the state. In California, State Farm is one of the largest insurers, and we're seeing them continue to reduce their coverage over the expansion of the state in connection to a lot of the wildfire events happening in California. And also, it's not just retail properties that have to be, or excuse me, residential properties that have to be insured. It's also retail and commercial, but also power, um, utility properties that have to be insured too. So these insurances are really, really large. And not only do insurers have to be insured, or not only do insurers insure, but they also have
Mhm.
to be insured as well. So
Mm.
even your insurance company has an insurer. Uh, and what they're finding in states like California due to the wildfire risk is that it's just increasingly difficult to insure many of these homes. But it's not, again, just in the great state of California. We're also seeing in the great state of Florida due to the hurricane risk, due to the increasing and sea level rises, the amount of floods that happen in the great state of Florida, that many insurers are opting to simply not insure those homes anymore. And so you have people who have built up 30, 40, 50 years of equity into these homes that are completely now uninsurable and essentially have no value.
Wow.
Okay. The great state of North Carolina, my own home state. This is happening throughout the eastern part of North Carolina. But now, not only the eastern part of North Carolina, where that's where the ocean is, that's where the beach is, but also now we're finding in the western part of North Carolina, in our mountains, that more and more of North Carolina is becoming uninsurable. And understand, uninsurable is what happens before something is the first step of what happens before we get to what I'm forgetting his name now, the uninhabitable earth.
David Wallace
Um,
Wells.
Wallace Wells, right? Wallace Wells is the uninhabitable earth. The first signs of getting to the uninhabitable earth is going through the uninsured earth. Okay. Um, and so the places that we're seeing that are becoming uninsurable, well, those places, what the insurance industry is signaling to our civilization, these places are no longer safe to build. These places are no longer safe to habitat. Our models can't ensure you're living here. Okay. So that's a way to read what the industry is saying. Now, there are ways to curtail, right? Some of the bluntness from these risk assessments, right? So you could build your house out of more fire retardant material. Okay. You can make sure that you have more robust land management. You can make sure that you have more robust and redundant water systems. You can have less people living out in forested area. So there's certainly things that we can do as a civilization to lessen the impact of some of these impacts, right? But what about rising seas? I mean, there's really only one thing you can do in a situation like that, um, and that's plan retreats, or you're going to be finding yourself building a lot of seawall walls and levees, and that's only in certain areas and situations. Okay, so trends across states, we see risk in pricing increasing, and that can go from premiums to insurers. We're seeing out of pocket costs and expenses go up. And of course, we're seeing that reductions in coverage are leading to uninsured property damages, which are also increasing not only across the United States, but around the world. Um, and as disasters become more frequent, of course, and severe, insurers face challenges in maintaining solvency while offering affordable coverage. So that's going to be the balancing act that insurers are increasingly going to find themselves in. Is how do we actually, in terms of a business model, offer an insurance that is affordable but also covers the risks that we face.
Mm.
Here we're talking about total losses in these situations, right? This is not just a kitchen fire in the bathroom sink. This is this is down to the foundation. And it's not just one home. It's tens of thousands. So yeah, this is go on to the next one so we can talk about the government responses. So there are a range of government responses to this crisis. National insurances, of course. The idea of national insurances, so we do have the national flood insurance. That's national hurricane insurance. That's what the great people in Florida often use. But people have asked about the implications of using such insurances. Is it really smart to tell people that, just because the government has the dollar, we'll continue to rebuild your house in a place that we know is going to get destroyed every year? Right? Is that really an intelligent thing? Is that a prudent thing for the government to be investing resources in? Okay. The same thing, the Global Climate Fund is sort of a wild, wild west of insurance. It's a sort of primitive insurance system where countries have kind of voluntarily put together premiums in the form of national pledges to the climate fund. Right now, we're doing $300 billion a year for the climate fund, which is up from
Mhm.
$100 billion in total. Um, and notice that $300 billion a year, well, we just showed you in 2023, 2024, and 2023 that the total damages uninsured globally are over almost $400 billion. So you'll see that at the next COP, hopefully that comes up in conversation, that if we want
Okay.
anything close to a serious climate fund, we're going to be talking something like 20 to 50 trillion dollars. Well, yeah, a large chunk of the global GDP is going to have to be simply in dealing with either mitigating climate risk or insuring ourselves against climate risk. And one of those things is weatherization. Weatherization is a project that, you talk about the Green New Deal. I remember how when AOC was first coming to power in 2018, people are laughing at this idea of the Green New Deal. We're talking about cow farts, literally minimizing the importance of the Green New Deal into just cow farts. Um, and eating grasshoppers or something like that. Well, a major component of the Green New Deal was the weatherization of homes, not just against hurricanes, but also against wildfires. And we certainly do need a weatherization of homes that could have certainly decreased the rate of the spread of the wildfires in the southern California areas. So certainly we do need weatherization of homes. That is something that will marginally reduce our climate risk, or at least the impact of those risks. Okay, and then strategic and planned retreats. Strategic and planned retreats is something that's going to be absolutely critical and necessary as we try to develop a new arrangement in terms of living with our urban and natural environments. There are some places that people are not going to be able to live anymore, and that is going to be a wake up call, because that's not in the history of our civilization. The last 10,000 years, we've only known more of where we could live. There was no one and nothing telling us that we could not live somewhere. If we had the money and the ingenuity to do it, we can do it. And now, for the first time, that paradigm is under massive threat. Under massive threat. The earth is telling you, continue to build your homes on the coast of North Carolina, and I'll just take them from you. Continue to build in Florida.
Exactly.
I mean, look. So we really, it's not a negotiation. It's not a negotiation. We aren't negotiating here. The plan is telling us this is what's going to happen, and so this is what we should do. So planned retreats are something that's going to have to increasingly be widespread in a part of our social conscious, and that's really devastating to think about. That's something that we only thought was resided to the people of places like Bangladesh or Southeast Asia or Malaysia or something of that nature. But no, that's a pertinent question that people here in North America and the United States will be asking themselves, and actually some of the richest area codes in the country and in the world.
True. True. Wow. This
And in
was
fact, that's what they're asking themselves in the Palisades today. People are asking themselves, yes, we could rebuild, but why would we? Why would we rebuild in the Palisades today? There's
oh, just wait.
Well, there certainly are going to be, like Sandy, you and I do know, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to rank in money and profits at the end time. And so there definitely will be people
Yeah.
rebuilding in the Palisades.
Yeah, they're
But
already
I'm talking
talking.
about,
Yeah. Oh, do you
I'm
have
talking
me on in
about
the
this.
background? Do you have
Sure.
No, I mean cuz I can hear an echo.
Oh, no, I don't. I don't have anyone
Oh.
on.
Huh.
Hang on. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, it's not your fault. I don't know what it is. It's not me either.
Okay. Okay.
I'll
Um,
edit that out
yeah,
from
sure.
from the
Uh,
presentation. Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that is a question that many people sing. When I mean individuals are asking themselves, people who lived in the Palisades starting in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, where they were buying these homes that were just in the tens of thousands of dollars or in the few hundreds of thousands of dollars that now appreciate to millions of dollars, and so they're essentially house rich. But they're asking the question, if I come back to the Palisades and I have my house rebuilt, am I still going to be able to have the same tax breaks that I had before? I'm not able to work like I used to. Um, no, a lot of those people are going to take their money and they're going to leave. They're going to go somewhere where housing is much cheaper, much more affordable, and they're going to get a lot more for it. And what you are going to have is, well, you're going to have people who do have the liquidity to rebuild the Palisades, and they're going to redesign that part. And I do
Mhm.
wonder, are they going to redesign it with climate change in mind, with ecology in mind, and also is it going to be built in a way that everybody has fair access to these places, or is it going to be
Oh boy.
the first sign of what our dystopian future kind of looks like, where you have these islands of immense resource and wealth surrounded by a landscape
Well, I have
of
been
pleasure.
seeing I've been seeing videos that of builders and different kinds of videos that than what we typically would think of here, and they're already talking about all kinds of building materials that can be used, how to do it. They are showing these channels are showing the houses that survived, how they had what kind of landscaping they had, what kind of materials, even from soffits, not having soffits. I mean, there's so much, but there's it's see, I look at this and say, okay, well, here's another profit and money opportunity
Oh
in
yeah,
this,
I mean,
in
one of the most
sustainability.
dystopic sites that we were seeing as some people were filming the ongoing fires was the use of private firefighters.
Yep.
It is a sight into the worst parts of a dystopic future, but also from our past. We've experimented with private firefighters before,
Mhm.
and that project failed horrifically. So to see that come back to rise, but that's what happens in desperation. Is that because think about this, private firefighters and public firefighters, there's only sources of water are localized. Okay, so they all have to pull for the same sources of water, and if they don't do that, you're going to have a disaster. So really there ought not be, but what's happening is there's a desperation. You have a situation where in the last century we demonstrated our industrial powers by building these magnificent metropolitan areas, metropolises out in the desert. And now all of that's come back to crash on us. Every ounce of it, from the urban sprawl to the gridlock that we face from our car centric development plans, from the rogue capitalism, from the casino insurance industry, every ounce of our indignity is now weighing on our shoulders as we face catastrophe. It seems the veil has now been pulled back, and we really do see the bare bones of our civilization in the midst of this crisis. And look at the political fallout. People are
And it shouldn't
blaming,
be. Right.
oh gosh, but people are blaming everything in between.
Hmm.
People are, what aren't people blaming? People, people are blaming lasers.
I
People
know.
are
I like to
blaming.
debunk those. I was telling on another show, I watched a video that was done talking about the fires of 1961 that destroyed 400 houses in in Bel Air. And
Sure.
back then, there was a shortage of firefighters for that kind of fire. The Santa Ana winds were 50 miles per hour at peak, and there were no directed energy weapons or HARP or any of that. So I've been sharing it around to those kind of people who are the clueless moron, the clueless moronati that continually
But this
spread
is
this.
very, but this is again very, again, I've been talking about the sociology of climate change here because we're in a society that still very much denies the reality of climate change. I was just watching polling where only 35 to 39% of Americans are very concerned about the state of climate change.
Well, yeah.
And the amount of people who actually are able to connect these wildfires to climate change at all is extremely low. So, what we're seeing actually is that as climate change events ramp up, there's increasing lack of connection to the fact that they're related to climate change. So, people have to make sense of these extreme events in other
Hmm.
terms. The other terms that they're making sense of these are gay marriage, lasers from space. The government is actually doing this to get us to mine some rare earth element for
Right.
AI technology.
Right. Like
It has to be something
else.
else,
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
And so we're starting to see the first signs of that wilding out across our civilization. And it's kind of right here home in the United States. And actually, that's right. In governments that can't demonstrate competent and effective responses and don't have effective, rhetorical responses or narratives, not just speaking to it, but actually responding, you know, literally and tangibly to a crisis, people have to make sense of it in other ways.
Yes.
And so this is the way that we're seeing that 21st century Americans are making sense of the climate crisis. It's a sign from God. Some people are saying that this happened to Los Angeles because of the godless Oscars
Oh, I
and
know.
the Hollywood Awards. They don't believe in God, so this is a curse from God. And I was like, how many churches got burned down and
Right.
in the midst of all this? Um, but again, people have to do this, and this is really, really scary because as as the next administration comes in, I don't want to mention. I know some of
I
the bishops.
just call him the
Um,
orange turd. I know I can't help
I
myself, and
won't
we're
mention
not.
his name. I
No, we're
won't mention
not
his name.
going to for
But
4 years.
um,
Uh-uh.
but with those sentiments of this is a hoax, this is not real, that will certainly inflame the spread of conspiracy like wildfire, no pun intended.
Yes.
Um, so we're definitely going to see a lot of that happen over the next little bit here. And as you saw by the graphs in the presentation, certainly do expect the frequency and intensity of these events to increase.
I think so. Did you see the little video I had put together about the with the little slideshow? I mean, I think everybody has, but it it was also it talked about the fact that it wasn't even mentioned in the
Oh
discussions
yeah,
during the election. You saw it? I took
yeah.
Adam McKay's slides and I put them to, as I do, music and background. Yeah, he had put those
I
slides
mean,
up on
Biden
X.
is essentially, I mean, the climate issue, he completely dropped. I mean, he dropped a
Hmm.
lot of issues to the wayside, but he just didn't mention it. It just, that wasn't, even now during these fires,
Well,
there's
he
no mention.
did. I saw him say, and this is crazy because he knew he can't do this. He said, we will take care of this 100%." He said it,
For the
forget
next
it,
180 days, yeah.
or
But was that,
whatever. Yeah.
did he mention did he mention climate change though?
No.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So the Democrats are engaged in a sort of open denial as well. The Republicans are vocalizing their denial, but the Democrats are also engaged in a denial as well. What they're seeing these crises, and we're not going to relate what happened in Western North Carolina to climate change. We're not going to happen. We're not going to talk about how we're facing 100 to 80 mile an hour, 80 to 100 mile an hour winds, Santa Ana winds that are blowing these wildfires out of control. We're not going to relate that to climate change. And so in the United States, you can see from both parties, they just said we're simply just not going to talk about
So
this.
what are
We're
we
going
going to
to,
do, Tony?
well, I think what the at least the political response is, let's just have more firemen. Let's just have, let's just do like let's address the symptoms where they show up.
Prisoners.
Um,
They've got the prisoner fire teams.
Right, right. And so what we're going to do is play whack-a-mole with climate change damages until we just can't keep up anymore. Never addressing the root cause of the problem. That seems to be what the United States plan is.
My gosh, Tony,
Oh,
you sound like such a doomer.
well, I mean I mean, we're seeing that right now. Oh,
Yeah, I
we'll just
know.
have more helicopters. We'll just have 100 more firemen or 200 more firemen, or we'll just have more robust water systems. Yeah, we should have probably all those things. But if you think that is the way to deal with the crisis, then you don't understand this, and you're never going to be able to keep up because we just saw from the graph. Not only are the frequency intensity, but the cost of these things are all exploding.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be nice if we just all over the world? I mean, I don't know if it'll come to this, but take all of the budgets for all of the wars that are in every country and put it towards climate mitigation. And of course, it ain't going to happen like Elliot and Sam love to say, but it would be something that could happen because we are. But will it be too late, or is it too late? Is it too late to do that? Or do you think governments will
It's it's
realize
it's
this?
it's it's well, I don't know. Well, I don't. First of all, that question,
I
I
know.
don't think those questions are related.
Okay.
Government realizing something and something being too late, I don't think they're the same thing. Uh, our government, the United States' government, is well aware of
Yeah.
the existential threat that the climate change poses to our civilization.
Hmm.
Um, so aware of it. Will they do something about it? Well, they are doing something about it. They're spending almost $1 trillion in military assets a year.
Yeah, there you go.
It's
Jobs.
not right. It's not the response that we want, but they're preparing because, of course, I mean, as you continue to see these events ramp up, as we are, as indicated in the graph, and just from 2016, and I remember when 2016, watching those news flash, that it was the when climate change went crazy was the
Yeah.
line,
Yeah.
yeah, 2016, and now that's just like, oh yeah, that's number 4 or 5 in the worst years, and by far, like only $46 billion in damage. We got $200 billion, $100 billion, $300 billion, $400 billion. Like 2016 is in the rear view mirror, like it wasn't anything. Um, And as we sell through 2030, we're going to look at 2024, 2023 as these numbers just completely. We're going to be spending, we're going to see trillions of dollars in damage
Yeah.
each year from climate change disasters. Um, and you can clearly just see that in the pattern that the graph is performing. We'll essentially experience something like exponentiation in the amount of damage and cost that these disasters are costing by the time that we're in the middle of the next decade. Um,
Keith says
so,
the entire military of the world need not be dissolved to provide enough money. The U.S. military can foot the bill all by itself.
well,
Keith.
right now, the United States ought to be spending, well, I shouldn't say right now, in 2016 to 2020, the United States had ought to been spending somewhere between 300 to 500 billion dollars a year annually in climate mitigation and also climate reduction, emission reduction, adaptation and mitigation, excuse me. Well, I guess if you scale that, it's about 800 billion today. Um, that's only for the U.S. part. So we would have to transfer, excuse me, the entirety of our military budget to mitigate climate change through adaptation and mitigation. So that would just only be our share. As for the rest of the globe, I mean, they would have to flip their own bill. I mean, we're really
Sure.
talking about now if we want to, and actually, I think this is the way to think about it. The climate is at war with us.
There you go.
And the what you're seeing now in the Palisades, it looks a little different than what you're seeing in
In
Gaza,
Gaza. I
and it
know.
looks a little different than what we saw in Dresden.
But, in COP, of course, it's not going to be the small countries. They're asking for money. And and the decision at the Council of the Parties this year in Azerbaijan was what, 30, was it 33 billion? I mean, they're asking for money to do these things, and the larger countries are balking. What do you think the odds are the United States is even going to do anything now at all?
No, this is well, first because we had misaligned our understanding of how climate impacts were going to arrive. We had told ourselves in the white, wealthy North that everywhere else first and worse. We told ourselves that. And we've told ourselves that our middle classness would be a shield against the ravages of climate change. And now we're finding out that that whole narrative we told ourselves over the last 20 years in terms of climate change, and this is among people who are in the know about climate change, right? Um, that whole narrative that we told ourselves that our industrial civilization would be a defense against it was a lie.
Oh, man.
And so it's a shattering wake up call that we may not actually have the money to be shoveling to help others. We don't. I mean, ask people in New Guinea right now if they want to come to the Palisades?
Yeah, right. I hear you. Oh,
People. This is a wake up call that the whole planet is stepping into. I mean, we're finding that out domestically. How many people in Asheville, North Carolina, were fleeing other climate disaster zones in the United States, and now are fleeing Asheville, North Carolina? So this is a wake up call that we're all stepping into. That the narratives that we told ourselves 10, 15 years ago that we were more comfortable with, now those narratives are being shooken. It seems like first and worst was really not
shake it, baby.
a
Shake it
not
up.
really
Yeah.
a way to calibrate ourselves in terms of thinking about these impacts.
Holy crap. I have to do this.
Okay.
$50. Thank you so much for this super chat.
Wow.
You do know that is
Wow.
all going to the Pasadena Animal Shelter. You do know that
And,
that's the fundraiser
and
for
we
all of January, and we are doing really well. Now, I have to tell everybody, I do have to pay, I honestly pay taxes on it. I don't even give a
oh,
shit. I don't care on any of it except for PayPal. If you go through PayPal, do it. I don't care. It's all whatever is going. That'll be more than I've probably ever, because I don't look at this like it's not a money making opportunity. This is just I pay my internet bill or whatever it is with the donations and for the cats because I have my own animal rescue here. But thank you. That was quite beautiful. And let me just tell you, Dog Dude did it 4 times, or wait, 3 times at $2. So that was beautiful too. He did one, and then he did 3 times. So I had a little goal, and I only asked for $2 each, so of 5 super chats. So thank you so much. I have to say, the animals are always the victims that are the least discussed, and that's why I decided. And I know Pasadena I know in California, yes, there's a lot of wealthy people that can help in Pasadena, and not just necessarily the people that lost their homes or anything like that. But this is for us to do this.
And it's a sign, and I'll speak to that as well because I've seen a lot of this like classism that's happening. Okay, yes, the Palisades, Pasadena, Burbank, California, Santa Monica. These are incredibly plush areas. Of course, we know that. What we're saying here is this is our world that's under siege, okay? And there are many people who aren't wealthy in these areas as well, devastated and affected, and in other life forms. Like you say, not just human life that's being devastated and affected by these fires. And it's just a sign of goodwill to Kevin, my God.
Kevin Black Bear News lost his home. He had a video, a short on one day. The day before, he showed all the junk in his yard that was blown around. And he said, I'm not going to do anything till tomorrow. And then he comes back the next day and there's nothing there.
It's gone.
So I'm sure
this is the world. This is the world that we're waking up into. This is the world that many of us are going to find ourselves facing, and I'm sure even people on our own channel and our own viewers. I mean, I almost had my close rendezvous with Helene.
I know.
So,
and you were talking about Boone because that's where you went to school, and it directly affected you emotionally.
So, and I haven't. Unfortunately, I'll actually go back up to Boone here soon. But yeah, I mean, and it's still impacting many people across the area, and will continue to impact people for years and maybe even over a decade to come. So yeah, we're certainly seeing things, and it's certainly if you feel that in your heart that you want to do anything that you can to help. Whomever, there's a lot of need. There's a lot of need.
I know.
And
I donated to to the animal shelter in North Carolina. I tell everybody I do this every month. I'm a broke joke, but I donate whatever I can every month to the local animal shelter here. It's just tough. But anyway,
and it's terrible.
Let's get me together. Terrible. I don't want to cry.
Yeah. But you're right, Sandy. The emotions you feel, I saw them echoed in many Californians. I mean, I'm not going to repeat some of the stories. I mean, you guys can only imagine.
Right.
You guys can only imagine. So it is hard. It is hard. But that is what we are increasingly facing.
And
everywhere.
all these wars, and think about Gaza and Palestine and the Strip and all the animals there. Not only just the people that have been murdered, that have been genocided, and in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and all the places that I go over in last week in collapse. I mean, it's just very overwhelming. So let me get myself out of this. Antonio, what would you do for the Environmental Coffee House flush of the day, which it wouldn't be a show if we didn't have a flush. What do you want?
Space lasers and tripe conspiracies.
All right, here we go. Sort of like the Marjorie Taylor Greene genre of discussion. They can do it. They know how to do it with what was it she said? Geoengineering, cloud seeding. Okay. We're gonna. Jeez. There we go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So, Sandy, I'm ready for questions. We can go into
All
questions.
right, let's see what we've got here. We've got a lot of. I did have okay, not to out this or put this on your shoulder, but it seems to me there's a disproportionate amount of Black Americans completely oblivious to the climate crisis? Question mark, and the most affected. Yes, we've done shows on environmental, you know, but go ahead, Antonio. I have to get my shit together.
Yeah, I think there's probably a class dimension to this still. I don't know, because I live in a community where there's a lot of black people, and it's not on a mind. I don't think it's. I don't know. This is here's one experience I will talk about. When I was in California, the times I've been in California, I could easily find myself without starting the conversation talking about climate change
Okay.
with almost anybody.
Okay.
When I'm here in North Carolina, that conversation almost never comes up, even when people do talk about extreme weather events and disasters. I don't know. I haven't noticed that black people are more oblivious than white people. I mean, it depends on what circles you're in. I just came from a circle last night at the synagogue, and we were talking about how people of color and communities of colors are disproportionately impacted by the climate crisis because there's a lot of environmental racism.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes,
but
that's it.
also,
Remember, we did that show on environmental
yeah,
racism years ago.
yeah. So
You
there's
and me.
definitely awareness of it. I think also with people, just like we see in the broader working class, that's just climate change is this huge, big, nebulous thing that people can't really conceptualize as easy as the fact that I can't afford my health care, I can't afford to keep the lights on, I can't afford to drink clean water. The person that was came down to the synagogue was actually somebody who worked up in Flint, Michigan, and they're still sucking on lead. And if you,
Absolutely. I know.
I
And that's
mean,
another
if
thing,
you're
too, about the lead pipes. The lead pipes not being
Jesus.
remediated in all these cities like Buffalo, where the older homes. All right.
So it's sometimes it's hard for disenfranchised populations to immediately connect the urgency of something like climate change to what's happening immediately around them.
Latino, I've never met a black climate denier. Hi, Latino. Political affiliation is a better predictor, or if one will be a climate denier than race.
I think even religious affiliation, because what I have seen among black people, or especially older black people, is that um, the climate crisis is kind of like a signaling of the coming end of the world, which I guess they're
Yeah.
not wrong.
Oh God. Oh
So,
my God.
um,
Right.
but that's kind of the way that people interpret. But that's actually a recognition that the climate crisis is happening,
Yeah.
right? Because you're seeing it, these fires and everything's getting
Whew.
worse, and you're attributing that to the coming of the end, which is, I think, not a wrong way to view it. I just don't think that God is doing it. But that's the sort of things that I do see more common.
Okay. Let's see. I've got a question. Now this is Kelly. Kelly has his own channel, small channel which we're supporting now. Have you discussed yet the health insurance or lack of that angle? Imagine a huge need with the inhalation of toxic materials. Kelly, that's going to be another show that we'll probably
That
do.
is,
You and
yeah,
me,
yeah.
Antonio.
I definitely have given a whole lot of thought to the impact that this will have on the healthcare insurance industry. Not only the fires themselves and the impact of, inhaling a lot of those toxic materials, but also heat-related stresses to the health insurance industry. What's happening to the health insurance industry when these cold freezes happen? I mean, a lot of different things are impacting the healthcare insurance industry when it comes to climate change. But saying said, that needs to be a whole nother show. We should do something like that and go into a lot of detail because there's a lot there.
Well, You're it. You're on it.
I'm the guy, right?
You're the guy. You're
Okay.
my historian and
Yeah.
researcher. Absolutely, you're the guy. Let's see here. I have another one. Thank you, Kelly, because Kelly, then you go on to ask about healthcare costs ever included in disaster loss and damage calculations during the COP.
And no,
No, I've
no,
never ever
no,
heard it.
no.
Nope.
I wish that what I could easily just say that I wish that were the case. And it's actually kind of strange because it's almost like we prioritize property over people. Um,
Oh man, you
but
just said it. Give me a sound bite. Say that again. Give me a clip. We
um,
prioritize property over
yeah, we
people.
prioritize property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody in the chat, can you say it? Oh God, I wish I could. I wish I could hear all of you. All right, let's get down to. I think there was another one. Robert. RNS Moonman. Um, Antonio, can we add to the climate damage money the loss from sea level rise? For example, the collapse of the condo in Florida and the condemning of many condominiums, salt water undermining.
Well,
Mm.
certainly, I think that that would be prudent to do, right? One of the big issues that I've spoken about over the last decade or so is the impact that sea level rise will have on coastal infrastructure, including nuclear facility. Nuclear facilities are widespread and around the world generating nuclear power, and they're often on places such as coastlines or rivers and lakes where they need to have water because they're cool water reactors. Well, this is an international problem, and there should be some sort of international fund, or at least this should be included
Hmm.
as part of the cost of the international fund, is to make sure that those nuclear facilities are either protected in a way that makes sense as viable for that facility, or they need to be decommissioned appropriately as part of a planned retreat and a strategic retreat from that area based off of the climate assessments that are relevant for those regions. I think yeah, we definitely need to be doing things like that.
Okay. I wonder how much PFAS firefighting foam was used. Did you come across any of that? Because a lot of that foam,
I
although
did.
they're coming up
Yeah,
with
I
new
that well
stuff.
because that's not an insurance question.
Ah,
That wouldn't have come across in my research.
okay. Even though
Not on
it
this. Not on.
does, right, but it does. And then Alex had said they're coming up with new foams, but a lot of that is still going to bring damage, but it's not the kind of catastrophic damage. It's more health, again, health
Yeah.
in the health. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, that's the red stuff. Is it PFAS? Some of it, I think it is, but the scientists are trying to come up with new new formulations. But okay, let's
Oh yeah, I
see.
mean, dropping that stuff anywhere is not good, right? We don't. That's why we don't just normally drop fire retardant
What we've got.
materials on the landscape because it's an extreme situation because these are toxic materials and they're going to wash around in the rainwater. Which, by the way, I mean we are completely not talking about the follow-on climate effects that's going to be directly
Uh
implicated
huh. Once the rains
when the
come,
weather. Yeah, I mean we're talking about my God, I mean we're just walking into a disaster,
it's just going
an
to be
absolute.
more of this. Oh, it will be more of that, more horror, more
And then
fear.
oh yeah, I mean this is right when people think they're going to start rebuilding, they're going to get washed away, and this is going to be so bad because so many of the actual hillsides that run up against the urban landscape have burned away. So these aren't hillsides that like when you're driving down the highway and you're out of the
Right.
urban interface. These are right against the urban interface. So this is going to be massively destructive when the rains come. And if the rains don't come, and this is another thing about this land management issue. I don't know what people think this is. You try to get a force of people to go out and rake up all of the understory across
I know. I know.
hundreds of miles of steep terrain. I mean, you have to be an
It's
idiot to
insane.
even.
But he is
I
an
mean,
idiot. They are idiots. All of them on your former favorite Fox. That's the three F words, former favorite Fox. But no, I'm only kidding,
you
Antonio.
can even see
Yeah.
from this satellite image how steep that terrain is,
Yeah.
and you're just like, and this
Moron.
is just hundreds of miles in every direction. Just make sure you get the understory. Just completely ridiculous. No, and what's worse, if let's say the rains don't come catastrophically, they come moderately. Well, they're going to outgrow the vegetation again. This is
Yeah.
partly the result of what happened from last year. We're getting horrific floods in Los Angeles last year. And now this year we're getting droughts, and all of that vegetation that spawned
Yeah.
from the flooding rains, well, got dried out and was used as fuel in these fires.
And the big joke is putting, a pie plate and those glass tops over your pie in a diner so it stays fresh. The big joke
Oh.
and the memes now is putting that over California. Boy.
Well, I
Oh
mean,
my God.
this
Everybody's a
is
comic. Ugh,
yeah.
everybody's a
So more
comic.
questions. We got more
Yep,
questions.
we have more questions. Karen, there is no market incentive to reduce these events for the disaster capitalists at the top who are grabbing more resources every time? Is there no market?
Well, the market is a wild, wild west. So there's market incentives to stop the disasters. There's market incentives to let them run wild. That's the nature of the market, and whoever wins out is the winner. I mean that's kind of what the market is. It's a wild, wild west, and that's why we don't want market market dynamics at work here when we're talking about ensuring a world that's undergoing a climate transition.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's see here. And Global, who's been commenting through the whole thing, has anybody here made the planet better?
Well, I
I,
think I think
I
I think
have.
everyone is. Yeah, I think everybody who's engaged in talking about what's happening, because we have to talk about what's happening in real terms, especially when we're facing a environment of alternative realities and alternative truths and conspiracies. So speaking truth to power is important. The donations that people are making to animals and other people who are in the affected area certainly, I think, are trying to make the planet better. People who are talking about the need for resiliency and for climate planning are making the planet better. um, but ultimately, do I think that those efforts are going to stop what's happening? Well, I think that it's better for us to be prepared and ready to
Mhm.
deal with these crises as they come up than to be unprepared. Look at Nick right now. He's in crisis management planning. He's getting his
Nick Humphrey.
PhD in
Hmm.
yeah, and I think he's a person that's going to be making the plant better. We just did a show with Jim Massa. I think he's making the plant better, getting the data out there, what's happening to the oceans.
Yeah.
Because the more that people know, the more that they can do, and their actions can have more power. So yeah, I think that informing people the truth on what's happening in climate change. I think informing
Hmm.
people of the crises that are related to climate change, such as what's happening in the insurance industry. That's something that's going to be affecting these people, everyone, all of us, because we all, most of the people on the show, I'm sure, have a house
And
or have a
small
car.
things too. I mean, like me, rewilding the property I live on, and the insect life that I've seen because of it, and growing food. And planting the orchard and that I have, and I mean, I don't know if it necessarily makes
Well, we
my
don't we
little.
don't kid ourselves. Nobody's
No.
kidding themselves here. We know that the things that we do, we just blew past 1.6 degrees Celsius conservatively. Like
Hmm.
we know that our home garden,
I know,
we know the solar panel we put on our roof.
but we're
We
doing it
we know
anyway.
because it's the right thing to do.
It is. Okay,
So
let's.
next question.
All right, let's
How
see.
how long have we been running? An hour and a half. So you want
Yeah,
to maybe last question here?
yeah, we'll do a couple of last ones in the comments. I had one from Devon. Um, do electric providers take out insurance for service interruptions? That's okay.
Actually, I don't know if electric insurers will, but I had my internet service disrupted, and I was able to get a one-time reduction in that. So I'm not sure what the policy is for your particular provider.
Okay. And then Jackie, uh, Jackie is asking, will renewable stocks turn around?
Well, of course, I can't give financial advice.
No, wait a minute. We just had a Trump coin that went up to what, billions and billions of dollars because we have the most corrupt country on the planet. Oh, well, we're getting
There
there.
you go.
We're getting there, and I had to say it, that. But okay, any more? I think I want to. Let me. I just wanted to. Okay, here, Robert Forsyth. Time is a fickle thing. Knowing we are in a pickle. We know the what, but not the when. All happens by way of a gamble we are in. Just throw the dice, and only Father knows the true rate. Robert is always full of his Robert-isms, I call it. Robert, thank you. All right. Well, Antonio, I want to thank you for this wonderful ECH crypto coin. God, no, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. But I do want to thank everybody. I said it. Oh my God, I finally. But well, what am I going to say? The orange turd coin. Okay, it's the orange turd coin. All right, that's my thing. I want to thank everyone, and don't forget to click the like when you go out. Tony, I'm going to give you because everybody knows, what I have to say, and I did 13 minutes of blabbing in the beginning. But watch, I will edit this and I will make the presentation excellent so Tony can share it around and you guys can share it. Please give us the ending here.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Environmental Coffee Houses, Assuring the Uninsured, taking a step into a world of climate claims and damages. Thank you for joining us, and please be safe and good night.
Thank you. Good night. It's early, but it's
Good
yeah.
morning.
I got you all kinds of messed up, but all right, everybody. Thank you. I'm not 100% sure yet Tuesday night, but I really do want to do Last Week in Collapse Tuesday night. But thank you, Antonio. I love you so much dearly, and he knows we love you too, guys. Love is a big thing for me. Thank you.